Hello, everybody, and thank you so very much for stopping by and checking out TLC Presents Todd-versation. We're very honored to have you joining us today. We're very thrilled to have these guests share some time and share some stories and some insight with us. Please give it up and welcome from the Fresh Market, Bridgette Thurston, Terry Miller, and Heather Hart. Welcome, ladies. Thank you for being here.
Having us.
Yeah, it's good to see you, Todd.
Well, it's nice to be seen, Terry. When we get old, that's what we say now. It's nice to be seen.
Exactly.
That's how I feel. Yeah. Anytime you're upright, it's a good day. So thank you guys for coming. I'm thrilled to have you here because not only want to talk a little bit about the retail sector, from your perspective, but it's very unique to have three women in a buying role at the same company at the same time, kind of marching a path, setting a trail for a company that's ticking upwards, doing some great things, getting ready to do some fun stuff in the world. Continuing to garner market share and be a conversation about good quality food and doing things right. So it's really exciting for me to have you guys here. So I thought today would be kind of fun to chat a little bit about the retail sector a little bit and ask you some other questions just about women in produce and what it means, because I think it's a very important issue that we continue to talk about. It's certainly something that I believe in. It's certainly something that I keep promoting. I've been around a long time and even in my consulting career that we've been doing, it seems to me like I've been around hiring more women than I have men because it just, they're some great people out there that aren't getting recognized and need to be uplifted. And I love that very, very much. And so for me, it's just a neat opportunity to share. So welcome. If you guys would, just to get us started a little bit, can you all, Bridgette, I'll start with you. Just give us a little quick intro of who you are and what you do so people can get to know the Fresh Market a touch and specifically, and really you guys.
Sure. Thanks, Todd. Prior to working with the Fresh Market, I had a long career in produce at Whole Foods Market in the South region for about 13 years, maybe a little longer. Then I moved to the distributor side and worked for a smaller local organic distributor in North Carolina. And recently came onto the Fresh Market in April as a local produce category manager. So my role is sort of unique, and I work really with the entire team of category managers.
Cool. That's awesome because I'd like to talk about local produce. So cool. I can't wait till we get to that part. Thank you, Terry. Say hello to everybody.
How is everyone? I hope you're having a good day today.
Well, I got to tell you, Terry, if anybody answers in my headsets right now, I'm going to freak the hell out. We're going to be off this Zoom call, to be honest.
Oh, I wish I could play a joke on you.
You will, I'm sure.
I've been in produce since 2007, so about 14 years. Yeah. And my career started at Food Line. But by trade, I'm a CPA, a CISA. I came up through numbers. So everybody knows Kathy Burns. She's the one who pushed me into this. And to be quite honest, I have loved every day since.
Gets in your blood, doesn't it?
It's really different. It's really different. Yeah. I joined the Fresh Market 5 years ago and have been involved in many different, all of the categories at one time or another, but right now I have some veg and kind of, I'll say the point person. I'm not in charge of supply chain. I'm just a point person for working with our supply chain process, which is we have 3 hubs. We don't have our own warehouses.
Right. Cool. And Miss Heather, how about you?
So I've been with the Fresh Market for a little bit over a year now. I'm a category manager with a mixture of fruit and vegetable categories. And I also have a bit of an added focus on sustainability. Prior to the Fresh Market, I started my career with Fresh Fields Farm, which is a family-owned retailer in Florida. And then I went on the distributor side with Vernon Produce in North Carolina.
Cool. So let's Heather, I'm going to go back to you with this question. What kind of inspired you to start in produce? I mean, I stumbled into it in my career. It was completely a fluke. And then now all of a sudden, 35 years later, here I am standing in front of you all. So what got you involved?
So it was a bit of a fluke for me as well. While I did have some connections to agriculture in my past, honestly, I really thought that I was going to be stepping away from that I was going to be going more towards the hospitality industry, doing some finance there. But I graduated college in 2013, which was still not a great time in the hospitality industry. So I started working for the family-owned retailer in kind of a customer service support position. And then basically, because I had a background in numbers, economics, and finance, the director of produce came over and said, "Hey, we'd like to try you buying." And I have been buying since then.
And it's in your blood. You're stuck, right?
Yes.
How about you, Bridgette?
Total fluke for me as well.
I love this.
I worked after college on a biodynamic farm in Wisconsin, and I moved to Charleston, South Carolina, where I'd gone to school. And actually, our VP of produce, Chris Romano, at the Fresh Market, hired me at a job fair. It was just supposed to be a temporary job before I got married, and I fell into Whole Foods and produce and realized I'm a total produce nerd. And yeah, it just was a really great fit for me.
I love it. Terry, how about you? I mean, I know you kind of shared a little bit, but now that you've been doing it a while, I mean, it's kind of in your blood, isn't it? I mean, it's such a unique family to be a part of, this produce business.
Well, I think what I love, there's two things I love most about this industry. One is never is there a day that's the same as it was the day before. There's never the same thing going on.
Yeah.
But every day's a learning. And then the other thing, coming from a finance and kind of a technical world, I have found the people in produce, whether it be women or men, to be more supportive of each other's development overall than it was in my previous professional life. So
Wow.
People care more about you in the produce industry than they do in other industries. And Food these are not the only two companies I worked for. I worked in government and I worked in manufacturing before that. So my remarks are not limited to just grocery retail.
Sure. Well, you make a really good point that, we're dealing in a business. I mean, the produce business itself is very high risk. Everybody's got, a little bit of exposure all around. You all as a retailer have exposure, but getting the right stuff in to get it right through your system. The grower's got to do the right thing to get it through his system and make it right, get it on track, all these other things. So there's just connectivity that I think is so much unlike a lot of businesses, because you're all so codependent on doing it right all the way through the system, because we all know what happens when it's not right. It's a train wreck, and it's sometimes it's not recoverable like this. We just can't make a decision on a dime. You get a bad load of whatever it is, that's a really bad day. And so I love what you said, Terry, because I think it's the way I feel about it. It's a very passionate business. It's always been that way. It's relationship driven. It's the fact that, and I love this about it because it leans into my mantra, which is talking about the positive cost of food. Relationships and relationship buying, relationship selling is a positive cost of food. I firmly believe that. That's really cool. So Terry, I'm going to go back to you and just because a little bit and just ask, what's it take to survive in a buying role, right? You've been doing it a while, but you came in from another area. You got to have a little bit of a thick skin. You got to be able to turn on a dime. You got to be able to pivot. To your point, whatever happens to you today is only going to happen, from whatever it might be, may not happen again for 365 days, right? Because tomorrow's going to be different, right? These are all different scenarios. So what's it take to survive in that kind of a role?
For me personally, because everybody's just it's always different, but is to be able to understand where the other person's coming from and to gather what it is that they're thinking, what they're not showing, so that I can either agree with them or build upon what they're sharing with me, or I can better communicate with them. So it's really understanding the person only sitting beside of me or sitting in front of me. That's not always easy, but each one's a learning. I was told early on, because I am tenderhearted, that I would not survive. If I didn't like buying cars, I would not survive. But I am tenderhearted. Mm-hmm. But I've also learned I have to be firm and not let people walk over me, because There are those there are those out there who would rather take advantage of me being maybe kind-hearted or tender-hearted and use that against me. So for me, it's been balancing the two sides.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I really can. I having my experience in this, I can relate to what you're saying. You are tenderhearted. You're a sweet person. I'm glad you're my friend, by the way. All right, which one of the other two want to follow up? Who got Bridgette, you want to go?
Sure.
What's it take to survive in your role?
Yeah, I think it harkens back to what you just said about connectivity. I think, even as a buyer, if you're specialized in your commodities, you also have to know, the weather, the growers, every side of the supply chain, right? Logistics, what's happening even outside of your commodities. And I think that's really unique. I do think you need a thick skin, and to be understanding of, when it's going in the ground, the seed in the ground, all the way to when it's merchandised, at the retail sector. And I think where I've seen other or new buyers struggle is, not following it all the way through to the end consumer. What is your guest going to look at in 4 days when they open up their fridge, from their grocery shop on Saturday? What's that stuff going to look like on Wednesday, Thursday? And so I think having that frame of reference always maintaining that is just really helpful to survive in a buying role.
Yeah, I love that. And you're right. It is from seed to table. But from the producer side, my mantra always thought about it's like, hey, look, the sale's not over till the check's cashed, right? I mean, the bottom line, you've got to see it all the way through. There is no stopping just because it arrived. That's a really poor attitude. Heather, how about you?
So I would say both Bridgette and Terry have said excellent things, but I would add to that, attention to detail is absolutely key in a buying position, because, just a small miscalculation or a typo can have potentially disastrous effects that either you don't have enough product for a holiday or you're drowning in product. I would also say definitely a willingness to learn is extremely important, because with the number of commodities that a buyer has to manage in various regions, nobody can come into produce knowing all of that. And so you really have to, particularly your first few years, just be a sponge and learn everything that people are willing to teach you.
Yeah, I love you saying that, because to me, this business takes a full year to learn, because what happens today is not going to happen until this time next year, right? And so this, the rain, the fall, the spring, whatever it might be, it's all a part of that learning. Yeah, very, very, very well said. What do you guys think is the biggest misconception that you've encountered in the industry since you've come in? Bridgette, any thoughts? It's a tough question.
Well, it's a tough question. I think it's kind of shifted, but I did come into this industry when I was really young. And I felt like that was an obstacle, kind of what you said about being a sponge. You only know so much, but I feel like sometimes that was taken advantage of my newness, or maybe I had to, work a little bit harder, right, at the beginning. I think another obstacle is finding people that are willing to teach you. I think we're all really busy, and that's not changed for, eons, right? And every day, people have a book day and it's packed, and especially in produce, because it never stops. But what I've always appreciated is just people that are willing to take the time to actually show me something and show me how to do it, or show me an efficiency, or, help me learn about a commodity or a weather pattern or a supply chain, So I think those are the obstacles, and it really takes some intention to move through them.
I love that. It's a great answer. And, it goes into something I believe wholeheartedly in, that we must mentor. We got to give back, right? We got to give to get. And I think it's very important in this industry that we lean into that. I think it's very important that we embrace that, because we are all learning. We are continual learners. That's the beauty of this planet. We have the opportunity to learn every day. So I love that. Terry, how about you? What's a misconception you've encountered?
Well, I encounter this no matter what job I'm doing, but if they hear my accent, she must be stupid. So, and quite honestly, it showed up on one of my interview reports and stuff. If you listen to her, she sounds ignorant, but if you listen to what she says, but that's not about being a woman. That's just about being a Southerner. The other thing is, when I first got into this industry, is the perception of what a woman's role was. So walking PMA the first time, I had a gentleman yell at me and say, hey, miss, can you come over here and show this to your husband?
Wow.
And I looked at my badge and then I looked at him and I said, my husband's not here, and I'm the person who makes the decisions, and I'm the person who's deciding you'll never make a presentation at our company.
Wow.
So that's what I've seen a lot of. That was one person. I've seen people like that, but I've seen a whole lot of other individuals, men, who don't think that way, who were still in the corner over here saying, no, these are the type of people we want working on our team. So
absolutely. That's, you know what, I have to tell you, first of all, the story, amazing, but it's also not shocking, which is even more amazing. And I think that's just really shitty, quite frankly. I can't believe that we're still stuck. I can't believe we're still stuck in this lane about.
And what bothered me about it is, in finance and technology, I didn't experience any of that. I didn't think it existed, but when I got into produce, I said, oh, okay, it is a different world.
Yeah. Wow. Heather.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, thank you, Terry. That was awesome. No, Harry, Heather, share a little bit, maybe your misconceptions that you have.
So I would say that, coming in as a female and coming in as a millennial, definitely there's a certain side of, I feel like often I've been underestimated a little bit in the industry that, to Terry's point, people are like, you're not going to last, you're not going to be the one who picks up the phone when the truck is, sitting at the warehouse in California and it's, 8 p.m. West Coast time. So there's definitely a lot of that I've sort of had to overcome, and also just the assumption that, because, you're a millennial female, you're going to be so super extra sensitive. And then sometimes on the flip side, when, maybe somebody actually does say something that crosses a line a little bit, sort of having your response to that dismissed a little bit, that people are like, oh, well, it's just that she's being sensitive. So that's something that I really had to overcome through a lot of, first off, proving myself that I do have a thick skin, that I don't just overreact to everything, that I am the person answering the phone, first thing in the morning and last thing at night. And then also, kind of just really documenting, like, if somebody is saying things that are really not, professional, not good for the business relationship, and putting that forward in a way that it's like, this isn't emotional. This is maybe not the relationship that we should be pursuing, because this is the way that it's being enacted. So,
first off, thank you, all three of you, for that open and honesty. I got to be honest. I am so appreciative of your responses, and I hope that my immediate thought after what you've just shared and takeaway is that anybody and everybody that's listening to this takes a moment of pause and goes, am I that person? Have I done that? What am I doing? What am I doing to change this narrative? Because again, the fact that we are sitting in 2021 having a conversation about equality and equity with the people that have put everybody else on this planet is stupid. It just makes no sense to me anymore. That runway is over. It's done. It's time. As much as I appreciate this conversation, it pains me in the same sense that we're actually having it, right? But I'm glad we are, because I want people to hear that we've got to work on making these changes if we really want to get the ball down the field to make a better planet, whether it's through food, whether it's through any kind of field that we're in. And we just can't keep continuing having these issues present themselves. They've just got to stop. Right. So thank you. I really appreciate that. You've actually inspired me. You've actually got me a little moment of pause, which is pretty hard to do when I'm doing this, because I get pretty jacked up and have fun. I mean, you really you touched me with what you said. So I appreciate that. I want to segue out a little bit, and I'm going to throw this out to whoever wants to answer it, or you all three can answer whatever you want. But I'd like to talk just briefly about what you guys have learned about consumers in the last 18 months, right? Now that COVID ended at Tuesday at 11:59, it's over now, right? But I mean, what have you guys learned? What have you guys learned about COVID and the consumer habits that have really changed you? Because it's been unprecedented. So Terry, you want to start? Whoever wants to, I don't really care. You can fight over this answer. It doesn't matter to me.
Consumer, it changed on a dime. It changed immediately. And I was completely shocked, whether it had to do with toilet paper or whether it had to do with eating habits. Maybe I should have seen this with previous studies of consumers. We have, in my previous life, it was very hard to predict what we were trying to use geographical areas and income to predict what consumers were going to do. And we were finding out it's very difficult. Everything through the internet, access to information is changing things so quickly. And I think that's what not helped or assisted the changes in COVID, because people were hearing so much immediately. I mean, I heard about COVID at SEPC, and a week later, I'm still not hearing that much, but all of a sudden there's no paper, there's no toilet paper. So everybody was hearing it. So it was just the quickness of the change.
But, just sidebar story to the toilet paper deal. Do you know one of the reasons why the toilet paper blew up the way that it blew up in the very beginning? I mean, it obviously got short.
Everybody thought they was coming from China.
Well, no, one of the big things was, if you think about how toilet paper in a grocery store is merchandised, when they're in these big jumbo packs, you can only put so many up on a pack. And so if you take them down, it's not hard to take down 5 or 6 and you have a massive hole. And I think that started to spiral some of that panic, like, oh my God, there's no more toilet paper. Well, it's because you can only put it up so much and this and that. I think that was some of the reason why that backfired. You guys also want to throw any thoughts at all about consumer habits that you've seen? Anything different than what Terry threw out?
This Todd-versation is brought to you by Next Up Brands. Here at Next Up Brands, we're truly partnering with on-trend food and beverage brands to accelerate their growth in the marketplace. If you want to build your brand, then connect with us at nextupbrands.com today.
Yeah, certainly. So, and also I want to kind of back up what Terry was saying about, the internet. One of the things that I was doing early in COVID, when nobody really knew what was going on or what consumers were going to do next, is, every once in a while when I'd check my news app, I'd look and I'd say this article of what to buy for COVID is trending, number 3 on Apple News. So then I'd send it out to the rest of the team and be like, okay, well, obviously a lot of people are clicking on this story. So I think they're going to be buying onions and oranges next week.
Right.
But I mean, yeah, it absolutely turned on a dime. And I think some of the things really made a lot of sense, a lot of cooking vegetables, a lot of immunity push, with, again, citrus, ginger root, turmeric, all kinds of things people maybe don't normally buy.
Sure.
What surprised me was the switch towards the packaged product, which at first I think it made sense because we didn't really know how COVID was spread. So people would buy it, wipe it down and say, okay, the food inside is fine. I was surprised by how long that particular trend lasted after we learned that most likely COVID is not being spread through touching an item that somebody else had touched before you.
Right.
You're getting it from breathing the air. So I think that was something that surprised me, how long that trend has stuck.
Yeah, I know that's, and you're right. And it's funny, when I think going back up to it, there wasn't a whole lot of energy put behind eat more fruits and vegetables, take your vitamins, right? That's one of the things I was really shocked that, in hindsight, of course, it's easy to be, it's really easy to be smart in hindsight, but I was really surprised by that we weren't embracing, get your 8 servings a day, get your vitamins, get your, really leaning into that. I was surprised that the produce industry as a whole didn't all jump on that bandwagon and really start to beat that. And then we started to see it later on where, to your point, people are like, well, we're going to juice more. We're going to get our immunity up. We're going to be doing these things. So it's nice to see that we got to that point. Any other thoughts to the question about, consumer habits? No, good. We can, cool. What do you think now that as I said, COVID ended on a Tuesday. Now that the retail sector is starting to open up a little bit, and it's people, I think maybe people are a little more chilled out in the grocery store might be a good way of saying it. It's, because when I recall people going to the grocery store, it's like, how fast can you get in and out? Right. It's like, bam, here's my 8 items on the list. I'm out of here. Now it seems to be a little bit more flow to it. Are you seeing people a little bit more relaxed now in the retail sector and getting a little bit more engaged with their experience? I'll throw it out to anybody. Heather, you want to take it?
Well, for me personally,
Sure.
if I'm in a store like the Fresh Market, then
Mhm.
I'm going to enjoy my time there.
Right.
But if I'm going to get incidentals, I want to get in and out. And quite honestly, I'd rather just order it online and have it delivered.
Right.
So if I'm going out, I'm picking where I want to go and to enjoy myself.
Mhm.
But if I just need incidentals, bring it to
Sure.
me online. And,
Sure.
and I'm a boomer, so that's not really, I guess, my nature. But right now, I love that. So it makes life so much easier to enjoy other things.
Sure. Bridget, any thoughts around that line?
Yeah, I mean, I was in the stores, not in this role, in this capacity, but I was at the Fresh Market stores doing a consulting project and resetting some of the produce departments. And I absolutely agree with you. At first, you couldn't keep far enough away from the customers, and it's very counterintuitive, and it's not how anyone approaches customer service. But giving people their space, I think, was really important. And now being in the stores, I think it's much different. I think people have a much more relaxed, low key. They're really taking their time to look through all the stone fruit. Like, we have so many varietals, and I think people are not just coming in and grabbing grapes and bananas and apples. They're really just like taking the time to enjoy the produce again. And we have in our stores, there's just a lot of personal interaction and a lot of really high level customer service. And I feel like that's back, and people are really appreciative of that, because maybe they're not getting that everywhere else. But the Fresh Market, definitely, I feel like it's still safe to shop, but you're still getting that interaction that I think a lot of people crave, right? They've been isolated and alone.
Right. Correct. Well, you're seeing it now. You're seeing it with people getting back in the bars, getting back to, being social again. We're social beings, right? We like that. And I love what you said, Terry, about the experience, right? You go for the experience part of it. And I think that's such a big part of the retail sector that is so important. What are you, if I'm just running in to buy something, doesn't have to be a great experience. If I'm coming in to shop for my family or make choices, I want to be able to go someplace that I feel is making me feel good about being here, about where my dollar's being spent. And I agree with you in the premise and the line of thinking that people are gravitating back towards that nice experience. They want to be said hello to, they really do. And that's the way we are. We love to hug. We love to hang out. We love to have family dinners. It's just who we are as a species. And I think that it's good to see us getting back to it. I like it. Thank you. One area that I know is really important to you guys, and it's certainly an area that I really am intrigued by and pay a lot of attention to. And I want to talk specifically about what's going on the East Coast for produce, because the East Coast certainly has evolved over the last 20 years. I mean, the East Coast now is some really great people doing some really great things, putting out some really, really good food. And, you see it now. You see guys from the West that are moving out east to farm because they recognize the importance and value that the East Coast is bringing to the supply chain. And it's great to see. And I know you guys are really, really involved in that, as you should be. And Bridgette, I'm going to throw this question out to you first. How has the East Coast food system developed and, over the past couple of years?
I would say, longer than a couple of years. I've seen it really develop over the last 2 decades. But I think that the East Coast, the quality, the perception of East Coast produce was maybe that it was lower quality or not up to the California standards. And I think that has changed and shifted dramatically. I think there's a couple of reasons for that. One, I think that growers got better, and that there's been a lot of support in particular the Southeast of really growing growers into producing this retail quality produce, this retail quality package. I think that just making, logical supply chain sense, the trucking has been an issue over the last few years. And now, I'd say it's like crisis. So I think it is a necessity. I don't think it's really even a choice anymore. And you see big players in the, West having farms in the East now, because it just makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. And it's, from what I've seen, is that, we have this really unique ability to start in Florida and then go north and, west, and really follow the season along and have a really great consistency. So I think that the East does that amazingly well. And I would say if my, one opportunity where I think we could really go to the next level is just having an entity of sorts to kind of connect that food system and really have it a little more organized like it is, out west.
Cool. I love that. I love it. Terry, how about you? Any thoughts about the East Coast? You've lived it and seen it a lot. What do you feel?
I would just echo what Bridgette has already said. I think she said it well. I think Heather might have some better comments than I would.
Oh, great, Heather. Specifically too, Heather, if you don't mind, and I want to put you on the spot a little bit. Can you lean into a little bit of some of the sustainability stuff that I know that you're involved with, but how that applies to the East Coast? I'll throw you a curveball here a little bit, but, talk about East Coast supply, what you've seen, but, how much is that a factor in some of your thoughts of what you're seeing?
Yeah, so certainly, I've seen improvement in the East Coast on the sustainability side. Even in the time that I've been in produce, for one thing, there definitely are more organic shippers on the East Coast than there were even 8 years ago. It's definitely a more difficult thing to do. And so there's a lot of conversations you'll kind of have with the different growers about, some of them will want to say, oh, well, we reduce pesticides, we reduce herbicides, all of that. But they're like, but we really can't make it, over the hump to be organic just because the East Coast humidity makes it a lot harder. However, there are several shippers that do an excellent job. But to Bridgette's point, it is somewhat more, it's a little more complicated that you have to have a whole grouping of relationships up and down the coast, as opposed to having one shipper you go to in California and you get covered 365 days a year. One of the other areas of growth I think that we've seen somewhat on the East Coast is, our involvement with CIW. It's definitely something that has been just key in changing the labor situation in Florida. And we certainly hope to see that continue to improve.
And CIW, for everybody who doesn't know, CIW is? You said CIW?
Yeah, Coalition of Immokalee Workers.
Workers, right, yeah.
But so, to kind of, to that point, there definitely is still growth. And I think that as we see, particularly for some of the family farms, the next generation start to take over, we'll see that become an even more important part of their business. I actually had a conversation with one of organic family farmer on the East Coast. And kind of the next generation was saying about, he's like, well, I've got a lot of plans for kind of the 2.0. He's like, but it's a little bit of a hard sell for my dad because, he's not quite as invested in sustainability just because he isn't expecting to still be part of the business in 60 years. But
I love it. I want to shift gears a little bit and throw out just a kind of generalized question. Terry, I'm going to open this up with you. Where do you guys think retail is heading? You talked about going online, purchasing stuff. It's changed, right? The world's changing. Technology, is good and bad all at the same time. The internet has changed everybody's lives. We have more power in our cell phones than we've ever had, than the first spaceship went to the moon, right? But where do you think retail is heading now? What's your prognostication for the future? And I'm gonna throw this at all three of you, so I'd like the different perspectives. So Terry, would you open up for us?
I think you're absolutely right about the technology. But the thing that I'm the prepared meals or the ingredients and the menu that exist, as far as I'm concerned, even if I didn't work here, the fresh market does it better than anybody else. I mean, to be able to get a meal and eat in your home and feel like you're eating restaurant style for a fraction of the cost is huge. I think that there's going to be more and more of that. I'm seeing it in those grocery chains that service a different customer than we do. I'm seeing it everywhere. I just think we do it best. But that's a big
Damn
thing.
right.
I mean, it's a time saver. Everybody wants
Right.
their time to either work longer at their job or to have more fun with their families.
Sure.
So if I can get great food quickly without going through a drive-through, which is not great food, this is where we're going. And I honestly do think Fresh Market has brought back a lot to great dining.
I love it. Heather, what about you? Where do you think retail is heading?
Well, I think that absolutely what Terry said is correct. But I think one of the other things that we have to look at is that, kind of what do we offer customers that restaurants don't? And one of those things is really the ability that, food can be tailored to their dietary needs. If you're vegan, you can't go to every single restaurant and find something. But you can certainly, using what you find in the grocery store, you can put together a convenient meal. Or, gluten-free, all kinds of different dietary constraints. The other thing is we really add a lot of transparency to where's your food coming from. All the time we'll get questions from customers like, do you source your garlic from China? And the answer is at the fresh market, no, we don't. And it's on a sign there in the store that, they can look at, whereas nobody really thinks about, hey, when I go to the Italian restaurant on the other side of town, are they sourcing their garlic from China? But I think that's something that as customers start to care more and more where their food is coming from, that it will be certainly something that retailers can offer them that restaurants can't necessarily.
I like that. Bridgette, how about you? Where do you think retail's heading?
I agree with both of what Terry and Heather said. I think also if I knew where retail is headed, I'd be a very rich person.
Right, you'd be in Vegas, right? Putting the money on that line.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen trends over the years, like thinking again about like the packaged produce and how that just became the new thing, and then it was gone, and no packaging, no plastic. I think we have a really, thinking about the next generations, they care. They're invested, they're information gatherers, and they have a huge amount of purchasing power. So I actually do think that the retail environment is going to change tremendously. I think there's going to be some things like special diet and organic, some things that were maybe thought of as more fringe, I think will just become baseline and an expectation. So whether that's good or bad for our industry, I wouldn't comment on. I do think, in addition to the, having convenience meals, I think people also will come back to cooking. I think in COVID, we were all forced to, which, again, for better or for worse, I think a lot of people are sick of it right now in the immediate, but I also think that, there's this push of nostalgia and heritage and making sure we don't lose family recipes and things of that nature that I do see online. And I do see, to Heather's point, I mean, I'll see trending articles, not just like what's the new variety,
Right.
of a stone fruit, but also, what's this old, we were talking about muscadines. So muscadines are on my mind right now. We were just talking about that. So, what's this kind of heirloom or older grape variety that, or let's say an apple variety that people used to, or we used to have more variety and now we don't. I see it going back to more variety, more choices for, consumers.
Well, technology is making people smarter, right? So people are investing more into those choices. And again, what Terry touched on earlier, it's about the experience, right? So people are coming into your store saying, I'm going to eat keto, which means I know everything that's there. I'm going to be gluten-free. I know everything that's there, right? We have that power now. We're empowering ourselves with good food choices. We need to be doing it more and faster and get on a better trail of some of this, but we're getting there. So I appreciate what you guys said. Is anything else that you popped in anybody's head about retail, where it's heading?
I would say also the shopping experience. I think there's very few places you can go to get that kind of customer service, with labor cuts and ignoring the labor shortage now that, we're all facing. I think that, there's some specialty grocers that I think are going to be able to make a name for themselves because they really are going to stand out more.
Right.
So I think that level of like personal service and care is going to be important to people.
Well, I think, yeah, you make a great point. Labor is a very important part of this entire process. Labor is a positive cost of food that we have to look at, whether it's farm labor or whether it's store labor, because your labor in the store is creating that experience. You guys could put the very best food out in the store and give them a terrible experience, and that becomes a problem. So I love the fact that you've said that, and I agree with you. I think that's super, super important. I want to shift gears really quick and go back to kind of what we talked about earlier about, women's roles in business and what's going on. Right now we're speaking, from a very generational perspective, but we're also speaking to a multi-generational audience right now. And I'd like to kind of address some of those issues because I hate that we have to, right? I've already made that very clear, right? How we do not uplift women more and how we haven't is a crime, but it doesn't mean that we can't fix it. And so with these conversations, I hope help that, because again, we all came from a mom, right? And so I don't see how I don't see how we can't look how that playing field isn't even, right? Because we wouldn't be here to have this argument if it wasn't, right? So I want to just ask a couple of questions, and I'm not trying to get us, any kind of a dark trail, but it has changed over the past 20 years. It has changed in your career for women, and it has changed in produce. And I'm just maybe coming from the perspective of this question, it's like, what has surprised you about the last 20 years, 10 years, 8 years, whatever your career number is, in this business, in the journey for women? Terry, can you kind of lead us off with that if you'd like, and just give us some thoughts where you're at?
So I'm surprised in the last, I'll say 15 years, when I came into the industry, most women were either in administrative or marketing. There seemed to be very few leaders.
Mm-hmm.
Now I see an onslaught of women in leadership roles. So I do attribute that to, there's a group of men out there who are supporting this, to feel like you do, and they go out and they seek the best talent.
Correct.
And those same, whether it be, I was lucky to have Kathy Burns, but I also had Jim Corby, who were all coaching me to be who I was, but also how to manage who I am in the business world. So I think there's those group of people who are just out there supporting the growth of women in the industry, and I see it proliferating. If I think about all the different companies that I've met with and who their leaders were then and who they are now, it's huge. I think it's different. I think it's hugely different.
That is a powerful statement. Be who I was, be who I am. I love that. That's a t-shirt right there. I'll just tell you right now. I love that one. Ladies, any thoughts? And do you guys, kind of where you guys feel like from your perspective, what surprised you a little bit?
From my perspective, and obviously, I think there's a lot of gratitude with women for people like Terry and Kathy Burns that paved the way and made some openings. I probably am a little more impatient than Terry, and I would say that from me starting in this industry in early 2000s, 2004, I actually think progress has been slower than I would hope. Yes, there are women in leadership roles. I think there's a lot of work to do in terms of diversity and equity and what roles, those women have. I think like it shouldn't be even something that is spoken about, right? It should just be baseline. And I think that we're getting there. It's just really slow progress. And I think that produce is an industry that is slow to change. So yes, I give props to everyone who's helped and made improvements. I see from my perspective that the retail sector is kind of leading the way. I think on the distributor, buying, supply chain, logistics, I feel like those are kind of the subsets that are a little slower to change.
This conversation is brought to you by Next Up Brands. Here at Next Up Brands, we're truly partnering with on-trend food and beverage brands to accelerate their growth in the marketplace. If you want to build your brand, then connect with us at nextupbrands.com today.
Interesting perspective. Yeah, I don't think I would disagree with you from that perspective at all, to be honest with you. Now that you planted that seed in my head, but I would agree. Heather, how about you?
And I mean, I think also we need to give a shout out that there are a lot of great female growers out there as well. They've definitely done a lot to grow on that side, and arguably maybe even a little bit faster than the retail side. So I think really even they may be leading the way. But, you know, kind of to the point that Terry made about, you know, it's been great that, you know, I also in my life have had every man that I've ever directly reported to has valued women and has valued me, you know, as putting, not really even taking my gender into account. You know, they just saw me as a buyer and valued me as a person. And so that's been huge. But I think when we have organizations, you know, like Southern Roots that put women in touch with each other, it really gives women the chance to support women, because it's harder to do that when you're the only woman in the room. And so I think that when we have those types of organizations and as they continue to grow, it's going to just accelerate that growth for women in the industry a bit more.
And I'd like to point out one thing. My whole career in produce, up until last year, pre-COVID, I was the only female category manager. So the fresh market has brought me two wonderful partners in the last year. And that says a lot about the fresh market, but it says even more about their skills and talent. So.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, yeah, and I love what you said. It's about that playing field. It shouldn't be a consideration, right? It's about it's a job and who's the best person for the job. And there shouldn't, you know, to me, it's what it comes down to. And I appreciate you guys sharing with me what you did. What about words of wisdom for women right now that want to look at produce for a career? Because, you know, we've got a lot of young people that listen to us. Our demographic says that. We've got, you know, there's people out there that are looking for a very important word, mentorship, guidance, maybe feeling something that all of a sudden we touch upon. So what would be some words of wisdom for women considering getting into this field? Bridgette, I'll throw it at you first.
Yeah, I think that at first it can be shocking how it is still a male-dominated field. But I do think that there's great people and mentors everywhere. And I would, you know, say reaching out to other women in produce is really is really helpful. But there's also, you know, finding mentors and allies, you know, in an organization. I think, you know, you can go really far. I don't think you should limit yourself, you know, because women, I think just in general, bring a lot to the table and a unique perspective that's not there. I mean, women are still typically the shoppers in the family and this huge demographic. And yet they're not making the decision of what's going into the store, you know, in the same sense as men. So I would just say, you know, and I just think for the industry, I think Southern Roots is really phenomenal organization, but I wish that there were like subset was taking some of an initiative to bring more women into the fold. And whether that's, you know, on the trucking side and logistics or the growing side, you know, all of those lines, I think that people would be really surprised at kind of the perspective that that's going to bring. And I don't think it's hard. I think, yes, there's hiring and you can choose the best person for the job, but if you have two equal candidates, maybe you do choose a woman and you know, spice up your organization a little bit. So
I love it. What would be an area that perhaps you'd like to change in agriculture when it comes to this issue? Right. I mean, Terry, I guess I'll open this up with you a little bit, and I'm going to give you a two-part question, actually. You know, what's an area you'd like to change for women in ag, but also too, how do we empower more female talent? How do we empower? How do we reach out? How do the produce community, the food community reach out and uplift an 8-year-old girl that's, trying to figure out what her life is, a 13-year-old, 16-year-old, whatever it might be, but to get down to where we start to empower people earlier to want to be in this business, but also to want to be the very best that they can be and realize that they can be anything they want to be. So I know it's a big question, but I'm going to throw it back at you. Again, just what changes in ag today and a little bit about how do we empower? You're all going to get this question, so you better be thinking of it because I've made a really broad question, so be ready.
Has anybody got something on the tip of their tongue?
Bridgette just motioned to me, so I guess
No, that's
I guess
fine.
I'll take this
Go.
one.
Go.
So, I would say, as far as changes in agriculture, I think the biggest thing I would just like to see is really kind of a general appreciation of not even just women, but of diverse opinions, of understanding that, while diversity in opinions may mean that you're going to have the conversation a little bit longer, it means that you're going to come to a smarter conclusion ultimately, because even if you don't like what you're hearing, it's good to hear what the other viewpoint is, because when you take that to the marketplace, the other viewpoint is going to be there, even if you're not hearing it. So that's kind of what I would like to see in agriculture, is just more of that appreciation of the, not everybody necessarily thinks the same way. So we need to invite people, whether it's from different regions, different genders, different races, whatever the case may be, into the room. As far as empowering women, I think that one of the things we have to look at is we need to give the opportunity for women to develop. We need to, give them meaningful coaching, but we also don't want to overcoach, because I think that there's times that, we can, and I know I can personally say, communication's something that I have worked long and hard on, but there's times where I've definitely been overcoached on it, where, maybe I've said something that absolutely, if a man said it, it would have just gone by. But, because I said it, suddenly people are saying, oh, well, she shouldn't have held that, been, that tough with that supplier. That was out of line. Fortunately, that has not happened to me in the fresh market, though maybe Terry hasn't thought of when I've said things like that. But, so, I mean, absolutely, it's one of those, as a 22-year-old buyer, I needed to learn that, but maybe not as often and not quite as hard as I did. And then, as far as empowering younger women, I think it's less industry specific how we need to empower women, and more just how we need to empower girls in general.
Sure.
One of the things that always comes to mind for me is, when you say run like a girl, throw like a girl, it always means bad. And I think that that's one of those things that, being feminine, whether you're male or female or gender fluid, feminine is not bad. Feminine is just different. And you can be a really good buyer and be feminine and wear pink, and it's fine.
I love that. What a great answer. I mean, what a great answer from your heart. I mean, that was awesome. And you're spot on, right? It's spot on. It's back to, I think, Bridgette, you said earlier, it's like that level playing field, right? Enough. We're all the same, right? And let's be that way, because that's how we're going to move this thing forward. Divisiveness, these issues, while they're extremely important and not to be made less of, they just need to go away. We just need to solve the problem. We have a lot of things we need to solve. We just need to start solving these so we can move forward. Because to me, it would be wonderful, and I won't see it probably in my lifetime, but it'd be wonderful if someday this was no longer a conversation, right? That generation's coming, and I can't wait for them to get here. And I look forward to what their lives are going to be like when it is what it is, right? It just, this is the new world. And I look forward to that. And I think it's going to be very important. So I thank you for sharing that. I hope I didn't put anybody too much on the spot with that question, but I think it's just really important. I think we've got to give back. And I think that if there's something that I'm hearing from all three of you is that there's a deep appreciation for the things that have gotten you where you are, the people that have impacted you, the people that have helped change and shape your lives. And I think you're recognizing the importance now of what that means and what your responsibility and obligation is in that role to give back. And I commend you all three for that thought process. It's very powerful, right? It's very powerful. I say something all the time on these broadcasts and the people, it's like, go inspire somebody today. You know, if everybody in the United States just tried once, on the same day, next Thursday, let's do it. Let's just inspire one person, give them something inspirational in their life. We'll change the dynamic of this entire country. And it's so important. So thank you. You all are inspiring me right now. You really are. You've uplifted me. I have to admit, the things that you've shared and things that you said have touched my heart tremendously. You've opened up my mind to a lot of things. You've got me thinking about some different stuff. I think it's really, really cool that you guys were so open with me on these conversations, and I truly appreciate it. I want to shift gears a little bit. I want people to get to know you guys a little bit and let's get off the reservation about this. I want to ask some questions. Heather, I'm going to open this one up for you. And I want to, because I just thought this was so cool. Could you share with me a quote that you learned and you put into practice? And I mean, I love what it is. You shared with me before, and I would love for you to share everybody that.
Yeah, so the quote was, plan for what is difficult while it is easy. Do what is great while it is small. And it's from Sun Tzu, from the book, The Art of War.
Right.
And so that quote really stuck with me, and I kind of put it in practice in my career, because being proactive and planning ahead is absolutely key, particularly as a buyer. Anytime you deal with an issue before it becomes a problem, whether it's, I bought too much, so I think I need to, mark it down and just get it out, or, I didn't buy enough, so I need to start making the calls, to today to, fill in before I have to go to my customer and tell them I don't have it.
Right.
Terry's laughing because she used to be my customer. And so, I mean, that's really just something that when you deal with those problems before they become a problem, you're always better off.
Better to be proactive than reactive, right? So just a sidebar though, Heather, you were a coxswain.
Yes, I was. So that I was a Division I athlete. I was at the University of Central Florida. The coxswain is the position on the rowing team that's the person who steers the boat and who yells, which I know a lot of people think we just sit there and say row. We do not. While laying down a cadence is part of it, you're actually often kind of more coaching sort of in rhythm. So you're trying to give them the cadence in the rhythm and also talk and coach through, to row together. Basically, instead of telling them to row together, you're telling them how to row together better. And also, when I said about steering, so one of the things in rowing that a lot of people don't realize is there's 8 people in the boat who can't see where they're going. And the coxswain is the only person who can see where they're going and thus steers the boat. So it's something that really taught me a lot about teamwork and trust. And the idea of saying, I, as the coxswain, had to trust my rowers that they were going to push themselves, that when I told them, they needed to like shift the rate they were rowing at or push harder, that they were going to make that change. But they also had to trust me that, one, I was going to take the best course that we possibly could with the boat, and 2, that I was going to make the right call when we needed to make a call in the race or change the race plan. So it really taught me a lot about teamwork, and definitely is something that helped shape my life in business.
I love it. That's Bridgette, tell me something that you're really proud of professionally.
I think that, something that I've been really intentional about is mentorship and sharing the knowledge that was given to me, because like I said, I kind of fell into this field.
Sure.
and I'm super grateful to the people that have shared their knowledge with me over the years. So I make a very concerted effort to, and not just women, but I, throughout my whole career, I'm like, okay, let's get some more women in here. I didn't want to be alone either. So I did make a lot of efforts to mentor and to bring people into an industry that's maybe not, as open to them. And that is really fulfilling to me. And seeing someone else do well or get the promotion, or just feel, build a lot of confidence. I find a lot of pleasure in that.
I love it. Terry, I know that you are extremely proud of the Southeast Produce Council and what's going on with Southern Roots. Can you share with us with Southern Roots? It came up a couple of times today, but I think it's worth a shout out. Would you mind?
One of the things when I first joined the industry that just struck me odd was the amount of support I got from women in the industry. And I actually enjoyed being around women once I got into produce. There didn't seem to be those games and whatever. So when I joined Southeast Produce Council, just being in the produce industry, you go to all these events, and there are all these women events at these shows that are present topics from sports writers or successful women. But what I wanted and what I was missing is, how do we become the best of what we are? And so that's where Southern Roots came from, was how do we put a program together that presents something to women about how to be the best of who you are. I think about our last one, and I always say her name wrong, Fry from watermelons and stuff, a grower, and Renee Fry, or is that
Sarah Fry?
Sarah Fry.
Sarah Fry.
Yeah. So cut that part out. She was great. She was great, and we are so focused on, okay, who's going to be our conversationalist in each of the shows, and what will it do for the women in there? We specifically stay away from sports unless they have a real story to tell. We specifically stay away from time management. That's really not what women need. If they need it, they can go out there and look online. But it's about, how do we build our relationships? How do we deal with each other? And then how do we meet one another? We provide an environment where they're meeting one another and beginning and developing those friendships. Because just as as Bridgette talked about mentors, everybody should have at least 5 mentors. Because everybody has a different perspective of who you are, and everybody has a different perspective of what their situations are. So just like you read books, these mentors help you build a solution or what's best for you. So this was how do we all get connected? So Southern Roots, I am very proud of. I'm proud of the 7 women that helped me build it. And I'm so grateful to Terry Voorhees, who's now passed away, who was heading up Southern SEPC, who allowed this. The men gathered around me. It wasn't even a debate, and they supported us the very first day. And it went from our first meeting probably 7 years ago, was 35 women. Now we're over 200 at each of the events.
That's fantastic.
Now, I am very prejudicial. We don't allow men in the meetings. I don't want a man to take the seat of a woman who's searching for something in those.
I love it.
I'm glad we got the men supporting us and all of that, but I want everything to be available to the women of the group.
Heck, it's great. Thank you so much for sharing that. I know it's important, and I know that you guys are doing some great stuff. And again, it's about empowering. It's about conversation. It's about getting us to this level playing field. And thank you very much for what you're doing and for sharing about Southern Roots. I hope people get online, get on the Google machine and type it in and see what it's about and sign up and come and be a part of it and join and keep building this network and keep empowering, right? Let's just keep empowering. It's what we got to do. So I'm going to shift gears. Let's have some fun. I'm going to throw some questions at you. Lightning round. You guys are playing for huge cash and prizes. Huge. I mean, enormous. Zero. Absolutely playing for nothing. Who's your favorite athlete or celebrity? Go, Heather. Go. Boom.
That's really hard. I guess favorite celebrity, I'm going to say Sam Rockwell. He's an actor, and he's actually my aunt's stepson. So he has to be my favorite, right?
There you go. Terry, favorite athlete or celebrity?
Denzel. I love him.
Okay. You know what? You love him so much, you just dropped Denzel. That was it. We don't need to know his last name. I love it. Bridgette, go.
Favorite athlete is Abby Wambach.
Nice. Good choice. Good choice. Lay a little rough. They a little rough. Hopefully things turn around and we get a good run with these guys at the Olympics, right? What's the best way to spend a Sunday afternoon? What'd you say?
For me, reading.
Reading. Good. Terry.
Nap.
Yeah, bingo.
I never get those.
Go on a run.
Go on a run. Okay, that's good. Energetic on a Sunday afternoon. I love it. Now the world needs overachievers. Sunday afternoon, for God's sakes. What's your favorite movie? Ooh, this is a hard one. Go. Favorite movie.
I'll just say The Goonies for me. It will
Love
never
that
change.
choice.
Yeah.
I love that choice.
I'm a Star Wars geek. I love
Yeah.
Star Wars.
How do you- I mean, how do you not love that?
I do.
Yeah, you've got to pick an episode.
Heather, how about you? Favorite movie?
I'm gonna say Star Wars, and I'm gonna specify to episode 3. I'm actually sitting here drinking out my Ahsoka coffee mug, so
I love it.
I wear my nerddom proud.
I love it. I love it. Ladies, I got to tell you, this has been so cool. I have enjoyed my time. I'm telling you, you all have touched me. I'm telling you, you have made my day so much better and have brightened up my week and have put some thoughts in my head to dig into my own soul about doing things more and becoming more empowered and giving voices. And it's just killing. I love doing this, and you guys have made this just extra special for me. I got one final question. I want to put it to the three of you. And I don't care who answers it first. But if you could just give one piece of advice today to a young person wanting to make a difference in this world, what would it be?
Be who you are, but manage what people see.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. Be who you are and manage what people see. I love that. Heather, Bridgette, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's a really tough question. I would say for me,
I don't screw around with layup. Hey, anybody can shoot a layup. I'm a 3-point guy. Come on.
I would say, if you really want to make a difference in this world, actually learn about this world. Learn about people that are different from you and don't have the same shared life experience than you. And I think that your perception, I think your whole world will change when you actually open it up to others.
Beautiful. I love that.
I would say if you're looking to change the world, just really understand on a deep level why. Because when things start to, the obstacles start to get in your way, when you can come back to that very strong sense of purpose, it will keep you pointed in the correct direction, even if the plan has to change.
That's beautiful. You know what? I cannot think of a better way to sign off from chatting with you guys and what you just laid out right now. You have taken what we've talked about and brought it right to a beautiful close. Again, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking time out of your day to share with the world these thoughts and to uplift, right? That's what we need to do. We need to uplift people every day. It doesn't matter who it is, what it is, but uplifting people will change our planet. We've got to continue to do that. From the bottom of my heart, I thank you three tremendously for your time and energy today. I hope it was fun. If it wasn't, too bad. It's already done anyway. So we're over.
Well,
I
thanks for
appreciate-
giving us the opportunity actually to, be in this room together. I mean, we wouldn't typically ask each other these questions. I mean, I think we have great conversations, but, I wouldn't necessarily ask Heather and Terry all these questions that you did. So thanks for giving us that opportunity.
It's absolutely my pleasure. You're welcome back anytime. This is, I want to continue doing this. I want to continue to uplift, right? And so let's keep the ball rolling. Let's keep these conversations in the forefront so we can stop having them, right? There's the goal. That's my goal. Let's stop having them. Let's get to the point of stopping having them. Thank you all very much. I really do appreciate it. Thanks everybody for watching. Take care. Be good to each other. Remember, keep smiling. Go inspire somebody. It's really important. Thanks again to the folks at Freshmark for hanging out with us. We'll see you all soon. Take care.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What a huge shout out to Bridgette, Terry, and Heather for their time and energy today and sharing with us. That was one of the most open, honest conversations that I think we've had on some really, what I think is a really powerful issue to continue conversation on. So thanks to them and thanks to the Fresh Market. Thanks to all of you for taking the time and energy to hang out with us and let us infiltrate your brain space a little bit and put some thoughts up there. And hopefully we inspired your day a little bit. We know it's super, super important. Again, thank you, and check us out on all the social media channels where all the cool kids hang out. Check out our Instagram site, TLC_Todd-versations. We're on LinkedIn, Facebook, the whole 9 yards. The audio version of this broadcast and all of our Todd-versations are available on all the different podcasting platforms. Just click on whichever one you listen to and you will find us. Also, the video versions available on our YouTube channel. Check those out. An open invitation to come on and share your story, spend time with us. Let's go uplift things. Let's uplift the conversation. Let's make a difference in this world because we're talking and communicating. Really do appreciate you and appreciate your time. Thanks for hanging out with us. Remember, go inspire somebody today. I'm telling you, it really is important. Take care. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.